WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Communications Channel 16 proudly present the We Should Know Show, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative. Now, here's your host, J.W. Simmons, as we consider closely what we should know.
We Should Know is on there. And J.W. Simmons, your host. We're excited to be with you today, and we're even more excited to have our guest today, which represents a huge part of our functionality as a sane society. I want to start out with the introduction with that. And I'll start by introducing Dana Hall, who's Director of Sampson County Department of Recreation. Also, Dana, you've got a lot of other titles in your job function with the county now, to also include the Office of Aging with the county as well. Garrett Bryant is Director of Recreation, City of Clinton. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank both of you. And John Adams, who is, John, at one time, I think the last time I had you on the show, you were kind of a newcomer, but the more I'm around you now, you're becoming a Sampsonian very quickly, and you are the director of the YMCA here, and the Young Men's Christian Association, as it was originally started, is a huge part of our society. Thank you for returning as well.
You're welcome.
So I want to start this conversation this morning with kind of I guess this idea that apparently during April, as schools look at letting out and there's a space of time, kids' health becomes very important. And I know that when this show is airing this week, which is the week of the 20th, there's a lot of activity around kids' health. A lot of that is physical health, but I want us to get into a deeper conversation about that. And I'll start, Dana, with you. You see it from both angles, and you also represent a department that covers not only the children and adolescents, but what I call the graying of America. Those folks, and I happen to know a lot of them that are graying very rapidly. You cover the whole angle. How does the importance of recreation fit into that?
Well, I feel like if we don't give opportunities for people to stay physically active and mentally active, then it just it kind of lets their mind wander as to what they're going to do. So if we don't give them choices as to what they can participate in, then they're going to make a choice as to they're going to be doing something. And I think that's all the way, every age, from young adolescent kids all the way up to adults. We need activities. We need things to keep us sharp. I know there's been a lot of talk about dementia, and there's been a lot of talk about how to keep kids involved in things and brain games and stuff like that. But if you look at the studies that show physical activity, as well as being physically active, you're also exercising your mind. And that keeps your mind's thoughts on positive outlets instead of negative thoughts and negative outlets. So that keeps, you in a sense of having positive outlooks, positive mentors in your life. You actually are in structured activities, organized activities where, you have adult supervision, or even at the senior or adult level, you have somebody there who's interacting with you that can talk to you, who can talk to you about your problems, ask you about your day, and just kind of check in on you as well to see what's going on with your life. And if it's not something within the recreation department or senior services that we can help them with, we can share other outlets for them, put them in the right direction. But if we don't see them, they're not involved in those activities, then they're kind of left to their own devices, or they're left to try to figure that stuff out on their own.
Garrett, I want to kind of swing to you on this as Director of Recreation of the City of Clinton. How important is it for people to know, not only parents, but children, to know you, know your face, know what you do, know what opportunities you have? Is that something that sometimes you think about? How can I reach to more people? How can I make them understand? Come here, I can help you with that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always one of our tasks and goals, is to always, hey, how many people can we reach? Obviously we understand everyone doesn't play athletics, so what other programs and opportunities and resources can we provide, to our community kids as well as adults, that can come and participate in the activities, whether it's free of charge or, a charge may be, with that program. But being able to just provide the options and resources. So we absolutely understand the importance of it. And pretty much what, Dana spoke to, we understand that being able to provide the opportunities is an outlet for a lot of these kids. And I think we've all seen it to where the positive impact of our programs and, recreation or not recreation programs have on our kids, on our community. So again, just being able to provide, those type of resources to the kids definitely is pivotal.
John, I want to swing over to you. You're kind of in a unique position after coming here and the YMCA deciding to settle in Clinton, which was a wonderful opportunity for folks here. You kind of work with these guys in a unilateral kind of way. Sometimes people look at it and go, well, wait a minute, we got enough stuff going on. This is just a part of the larger wheel of movement. Kind of tell us how YMCA looks at it and what you have discovered since you've been in Clinton.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for bringing the three of us together. As Dana had talked about before the show, there really isn't a competition between us because there's so many people. It's the abundance theory. There's plenty to do here. And there's so many things that Clinton has provided. And I keep hearing this, Clinton always punches above its weight, and Sampson County in general, because of just how many wonderful resources the individuals have. But we have to also be present and we have to be out in there. Like you said, I'm a Sampsonian now. I think I've been involved in just about every fair and parade and event and have just seen there's a great need for healthy activity and resources to be able to provide. Garrett and I talk about filling in the gaps. I think that's a big part of the statement because they have a lot of the facilities outdoor that we don't have. A lot of times we kind of look at our pool as a resource that can give individuals great education around aquatics. And, other than the summertime, Royal Lane doesn't have the opportunity to be able to give that. So water education for us is a massive thing. We just gave 963 little second graders a second grade swim program to teach it across the county and give them wonderful education around the water, keeping safe as they get into the summertime. Garrett and I are partnering on our Parks and Rec, our Healthy Kids Day, coming right down the corner, April 26th. He has the facilities, he has the resources. Come on, let's go ahead and open it up and talk about how we can bring other resources and agencies in to give to the kids. So being able to utilize the resources that Dana and Garrett have, but in time of need or wherever we can provide those kind of gap fillers, we want to be able to give activities for all, really, as Garrett also said. Not everybody does sports. And so the Y really tries to embrace, whatever it is that you like to do, whatever hobbies that you would want to kind of gravitate toward, let us help you out and get those people around them. And that's what it comes down to. It's people. It's bringing people together in a healthy way and giving positive resources for them.
Yeah, and then I think one of the big things is you guys are doing a lot this week. The week of the 20th and the 26th, you got a program coming up on healthy kids. If folks want to participate in that, be part of that, they can reach out to you directly.
Absolutely. This is also, we're about to embark the 21st to the 25th is National Child Abuse Prevention Week. So we really want to be able to sort of uplift resources for the parents, grandparents, the caregivers, on ways and healthy avenues for them to be able to reach out and be that calendar of events. I think that's another big piece of it. And the city does a great job. Mary Rose and her team, phenomenal job of putting events out as much as she can out in front of people so they can see it. And we kind of want to take a little bit of that playbook of how can we get the information out there, whether it's social media or on our websites, or be able to share and collaborate on that event, because we know a lot of times our events tend to overlap, or perhaps in some cases they kind of conflict.
Sure.
So it's important that we're not really cannibalizing one another's programming, but helping to kind of give a little bit more localized, or even sort of wherever geographically those people are at, meet them where they are, go out to them a little bit more and expect to, as we call it, why without walls, is allowing those individuals to see us out in the community and do some resourcefulness in educating how to get to those programs. The schools are another huge partner. It's, like I said, we just did the second grade swim. We're doing some great group exercise classes right at Sunset Avenue for those wonderful teachers. We've been going out to them to give them some stuff in their backyard to be able to, healthy outlets, because happy teachers is happy students. And we want to keep giving those individuals resources really in their backyard.
Dana, and I'm just thinking about the size of the county, and as large as it is, the assets you have on your right and left, that also helps you move programs forward, maybe streamline programs when you can, and that kind of thing. Is that a realistic statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Garrett and I have talked about streamlining some senior game stuff, being able to add in some special populations. And we can't do that by ourselves. Our staff is too small to do that. So, if we can collaborate together in partnership, and like John mentioned, the schools are a huge partner with what we do. They allow us to do things at some of their facilities. The teachers are encouraging, coaches are encouraging to sign up and participate. We help out a lot of the coaches with their preparation for their games and skill development and facilities. But offering more than athletics, like John mentioned, it's almost impossible without a partnership between us. Being able to pool our resources, our staff, put them together to be able to offer some programs that we believe moving forward are going to be really huge for our county. And they'll be very competitive with what other counties have.
We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to kind of toss something out and let you guys kind of help folks understand this idea of nurturing and growth when it comes to folks in the community, particularly as we're talking in the first parts of the show here about kids and nurturing. Sometimes we get a little misunderstanding what that means and how we approach it from your perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking about adolescent and kids' growth, health, things that you may not know about our recreation departments. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome to Cork and Brew Roseboro, where you can enjoy your favorite coffee, fraps, smoothies, bakery items, sandwiches, and select beer and wines while reconnecting with friends and family. Sit down and enjoy the experience. Come on by and give us a try.
How can your friend save you money? It's easy. Refer a relative, coworker, neighbor, or friend to Star Communications. Friend signs up for high-speed internet service. Friend's new account is confirmed. Friend gives your name to our service representative as the one who referred them to Star. You receive a $30 internet credit. It's just that simple. And even better, receive a $30 internet credit for every referral that results in a new confirmed account. High-speed internet from Star Communications. Refer a friend today.
At the Reedy Mark, we take pride in a unique, distinguished customer experience. We specialize in handcrafted cocktails, allocated bourbons, as well as gourmet signature food items exclusive to our menu at the Reedy Mark in Roseboro.
Looking for training that leads to a high-demand, high-paying career? Bladen Community College can help you get there. Enroll in our welding program and gain the skills and expertise needed to excel in the industry and secure a successful future. Explore our HVAC program, where you will learn to install and service energy-efficient systems to keep homes and businesses comfortable year-round. Learn more at bladencc.edu or give us a call to get started today.
The average American household has 17 devices connected to the internet. With more and more devices able to get online, you may need to increase your internet speed. Call Star Communications today and let us help you select the package that's right for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know It's On There. J.W. Simmons, your host. Thank you for being with us today. We're talking about recreation issues, things that impact your lives, things that you may not give it a thought but are critically important to your function and functionality as a human being. Today we have with us Dana Hall, Director of Department of Recreation and also Aging, Sampson County, Garrett Bryant, Director of Recreation, City of Clinton, and John Adams, Director of the YMCA. I want to thank all of you for being with us. We've had just a lively discussion off camera and off air. I'm going to try to tie as much of this back in as I can. Introducing this part of the show, I want to talk a bit about the needs of children in our communities. One of the things that I recognized during COVID was this need for food, that schools were opening up to pass out lunches so children would have food to eat. When we see that from a distance, you guys see it up front. And Garrett, I suggest you see it more vividly from a recreation director than anybody that I can imagine, because you see it on a large scale level.
We do. Across the board and different, obviously through our programs, we see a lot of kids in needs of certain things. And how we try to cope or combat that situation is, we deal with a lot of civic organizations that help, put funds towards, whether it may be equipment or anything like that, so that we do see. So if kids doesn't have cleats, pants, or anything like that, we do try to help out in that sense with the help of civic organizations. So that has played or helped us tremendously in that realm, as far as being able to fill that gap in needs that we see with our kids.
And I think the thing that strikes me too is this thing of backpack buddies. It's there's another thing that supports and helps the school system, helps those family members and children as well. Dana, you see it with the county schools. I mean, we've got several school systems in the county, but the county is so large in its spans. Just reaching those people, does recreation play a role in assuring that you're kind of the backup and in some cases the front line?
Yeah, so I think, recreation's pretty much boots on the ground for hearing people's needs and concerns. You learn a lot about people, about coaches that are volunteering, not just the kids, but their parents. So you're involved with their whole families, and you kind of start seeing what their family makeup is like. And a lot of them open up to your staff. And so they kind of tell you what their needs are. And even if they don't tell you, you can see what their needs are. Something that our department's working on, especially through senior services, is we're working on coming up with a list of food pantries throughout the county. So it would be mapped on, where you could go. They could send resources. There's different, like Garrett mentioned, civic groups. So there's different church organizations and nonprofits that are able to help these families. And we can kind of steer them in that direction. We also, there's a nonprofit that we work with that's called Good Sports, that sometimes you can get some different equipment, cleats, pants, like Garrett was mentioning, sports equipment, but there's also some other exercise equipment that you can get for them. That's things that they can do on their own at home. And so if we know those needs, then we can apply for those funds. And pretty much with that particular program, the only thing we're paying for is the shipping to be able to get those things.
John, I want to segue to you. As I look at it, sometimes I think folks look at the YMCA and they see a nice facility you got, and the indoor swimming classes, we've done a show from there and just kind of highlighted the importance of that. But you also see the larger county as well. Kind of give us an idea of what you're seeing, especially as it relates to adolescents and younger children.
Yeah, kind of going into the food concept. Food insecurity is a major issue, and Amy Hobbs, our food services director, estimates that this summer alone we will probably spend around $1.5 million on food itself. This past year, we partnered with USDA and got a grant through non-congregate meals, averaged about 129 meals a week for individuals to come to the Y and be a place to be able to get food and find that nourishment. As we go out into the community and we'll start to look into some areas that are underserved, we want to be able to go there and bring all of our resources, whether it's after school care, whether it's food services, athletics, and really kind of give as much of the Y's full resources to areas in the north and the south of the county that really have a need. And I think the beautiful thing about our county is that we are food. I've seen it from start to finish as I moved here and watched airplanes crop dusting, and I saw farmers out working. Like you said, you grew up on a farm.
Absolutely.
So there should not be a food insecurity here, and we should be embracing and working to be able to give nourishment to these kids one way or another, whether it's education or actual meals. One of the things I did during COVID is I got behind the wheel of a bus and I delivered meals for schools. It was a very eye-opening experience for me to get there and to go up on someone's front porch and drop a bag of food. And that really was where I think for me, I established what the Y was all about and how much trust the community had in us to be able to give not just exercise, but give opportunity to help them mind, body, and spirit, and give them resources. So, I'm loving on this county. The Y is loving on this county, and the reciprocation and the feedback that we're getting from Parks and Rec, from the school system, and from even the local governments has been very eye-opening and really rewarding.
Danny, you said something, and kind of partly what John is saying is this relationship with the county. You mentioned, I think your phrase was boots on the ground, which simply means that the recreation folks are out there. They're literally in the community. They're looking at eye to eye to the children in the community. And there is a relationship. Unfortunately, it's not seen. You see sometimes the things that are going to be issues or problematic before the blue lights come on, before the red lights of rescue comes on, and all that kind of thing. All those critical services we talk about. Sometimes you see that developing before they have to even be called. Is that a safe statement to make?
Yeah, I would think so. We see problems kind of before they happen, and I would see recreation as preventative programs. I think that would be the case in health, violence. That would be several areas that we can, or prevention. We don't want to be a reactionary community. Mm-hmm. We want to be a prevention community. We want to be healthy, like he said, mind, body, and spirit. And that's our focus when we're dealing with not only kids, but parents. When we see parents that, come to our games or participate in our programs, and usually they have some kind of incident where they're acting out, that didn't happen because what was going on at that program. Mm-hmm. That they brought whatever that issue was with them. And so if you don't have an outlet for those kids or those parents to where there's some kind of supervisor or some kind of structure there to be able to handle those issues, then those issues continue on at their home. And then that trickles down to their children. They think, well, that's, how you act out your emotions. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand how to handle their anger or handle their sadness or whatever they're going through at that time. So I think it's really critical for our programs to be able to have some healthy interaction with them. It's okay to have emotions, but, you have to handle them in a healthy way. And so just as he was mentioning earlier in kind of an all-fair conversation, we're fortunate to be able to have 3 different outlets, but then there are some things that we don't have in our county. Psychological services is something that we were offering through juvenile justice. That's something that we had to discontinue because we didn't have a doctor. Mm-hmm. to be able to help with those things. So that is trickling down to our different public services to be able to help with those issues, be able to just, talk and relate to those people. And one of the biggest concerns right now that we're being able to see is accessibility to programs, accessibility for people with intellectual or physical disabilities. And Garrett and I both have applied for grants for accessibility, for accessible playgrounds. We're going to be able to put an accessible park that's inclusive for people with all kinds of disabilities. And then we've also applied for another accessible parks grant to be able to have accessible pathways. So if you have senior adults who are trying to come out to games and there's not an accessible pathway for them to walk out, they don't have an opportunity to participate or even watch. Same thing if anybody is coming that has a walker, cane, wheelchair, there's no pathway sometimes to the parks or places that we have programs. So that's one of the things that we're hoping through these grant funds that we'll be able to say that that's an area that we're being able to meet their need.
Garrett, as I'm listening to Dana, it struck me that it seems that maybe you didn't think you would be, but it sounds like as a recreation representative, you're feeling the brunt of the need for that behavioral health piece more than you anticipated, or is this kind of a norm?
I don't know if say it's norm, but I anticipated it, I guess. Being able to, like Dana had mentioned, you get to see the, I guess, behind the scenes of, family dynamics, and being able to, speak to them, speak to their families and things like that. So I have a unique situation to where, although I'm in my position, but my kids are involved in recreations, so I'm able to be amongst other kids and being able to, speak to families and things like that. So like I said, we're definitely in the forefront of being able to dive into family dynamics and see what's going on with them. So it helps me, to see what are the needs of these families and try to provide more resources or, where we can.
And those critical resources, I think, is probably the next part of the conversation I want to have is how do you look at it as a director to ensure that we have those resources. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment to continue this conversation about the important role that these folks play in the community. We'll be back in a moment.
At Fisher's, it's not just about fashion. It's about exceptional service. Experience top-notch customer care and find your perfect look. Visit Fisher's today and feel the difference. Looking to refresh your home? At Clinton Appliance and Furniture, we've got everything you need to create the perfect space. We're here to help make your house a home with stylish furniture, appliances, flooring, design services, delivery, and repair. Visit ClintonAppliance.com to explore our selection or visit us at 401 Northeast Boulevard in Clinton. Shop local. Shop smart. Shop Clinton Appliance and Furniture.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks for being with us. We're talking about recreation. We're talking about adolescent and seniors today, particularly the adolescent part. We're trying to create an understanding of the importance of the organizations we're talking to, and those organizations represented by Dana Hall, Director of the Department of Recreation, Garrett Bryant, Recreation City of Clinton, and John Adams, Director of YMCA. Now, guys, we've talked a lot about behavior and the importance of that. I want to zero in on some of the things that, and I don't want to say it in this sense, but it's like if there's a void exists and folks don't have access to what you represent. This could only escalate other areas in the need triangles, which is going to fall back to churches, going to fall back to emergency response, going to fall back to hospital needs, all those kinds of things. But you found yourself in an era of time that the nurture of the mental and behavioral health of the community is not only important, but it's becoming equally important with the nutritional needs of the community. So let's start out on that role. What is that piece, and what happens, and why in the conversation does folks, and about 80% or more of the population, according to studies, indicate parks and recreation is something they find is critically important. So it's not like we're selling, what you do. It's like we're saying, how does folks understand what happens if we don't? Dana, I'll start with you.
Well, I think when you talk about how many program participants we have, you're not just talking about kids in programs or adults in programs. You're talking about how many people actually show up to those events, how many people show up to practices, how many people show up to special events. You're saying that we have a population between, 58 and 59,000 people. Well, I would say that, a minimal figure would be we have over 50,000 people at our sports events per year. So that's just with the county. What does Garrett have at his? And, what does John have at his? So you are not just serving those families. So if there's nothing to do, then where are they going to go? What are they going to get into? And then on top of that, you're not talking about just participants. The real vital age of where kids start really getting into trouble and kind of can make some poor decisions, 13, 14, 15. Well, that's our group of kids that we're hiring, and they're our part-time kids, or they're our kids that work for us during the summer. And a lot of times, I'm sure John and Garrett would probably agree, we seek out some kids that we know need some guidance, and we give them some employment opportunity to be able to guide them. Yeah. Especially when they don't have a lot of supervision, and we know that they can be somebody that may, be prone to getting into some activity that they shouldn't be into. But, as you said and you mentioned, if you don't have that, you take away those opportunities, then they're still going to find things to do, but it's going to be something that's not productive for our society. And it's going to involve other areas, and we're going to have to be putting more funding toward other areas, other departments that have to deal with those negative issues.
And it's a pretty interesting number that you put out, because when I think of 50,000, you almost encapsulated the total population of the county to start with. So that's almost like 80, 90% of the folks in the county are participating some way in recreation. Garrett, when I think about that, you have more of a concentrated issue here as far as density of population in one city location. Does that kind of equal what you're seeing on the city level? Absolutely.
Obviously, we, a smaller, like you said, concentrated area, about 5,800, but we still try to meet those needs and being able to provide those, those options. Where we are now is being able to provide those programs for those ages outside of once you get past 12 years old, 13, 14. Some of those teenagers are, again, who we look to bring in for hiring for our seasonal, athletics or lifeguarding, things of that nature, just get them on the right path or get them some type of structure. But again, we do try to provide those, resources, for those older kids by providing teen night, things like that. We're currently trying to, renovate a room at the Sampson Recreation Center to a game room. So, again, what we spoke about earlier, although everyone's not into athletics, what are other avenues that these kids can do, that provide them some type of structure? So the game room, having teen night, just to hang out with friends in a safe, structured environment, those things that we're trying to, provide to the public, just to, again, give these teens something to do, outside of a structured school time.
John, you mentioned earlier on that the folks sitting in the chairs here that I'm looking at is kind of a team effort. and the YMCA has facilities and resources maybe that they do not have. But the other side of that is you also dig deeper in the sense of child care that I thought was interesting. And last time you were on the show, you mentioned this, basically having where folks can drop off their child, and if they need to take a breather for a day or clean the house a little more, they have an opportunity to do that. Is that expansion of understanding of what recreation is important for people that are listening today to understand it's more than just playing ball, it's more than just looking after the kids, it's a deeper kind of sense?
It comes down to trust. I think that, my son grew up with a lot of programming in the Y, and I always enjoy seeing some of the younger parents when they do drop off their little ones in our child care. I see them kind of looking over there, and it's a big part of that connection and the dynamic that we have with all of our members and non-members alike, is establishing the fact that it is okay for you to take time for yourself and either go work out or during kids' night out, go on a date. When's the last time you've had a date? Mm-hmm. And just to be able to entrust us, because we oftentimes we do see kids without a guardian, and just the fact that they have that trust to be able to drop the child off and know that they're going to get the care and have that time alone or with a small group or a larger group to be able to really enjoy that time. One of the things we're founded on 5 core values: and faith, responsibility, caring, respect, and honesty. We try to put those core values into every single child, adult, grandparent, anybody that comes through our doors. And that hopefully, again, being able to be a value-based facility can really give the parents and the guardians peace of mind that they know they're going to have that faith. Interesting, JW, this past week, I had a young fella come in and was sitting in the lobby, and we said, well, where's your parents? What's going on? Mm-hmm. And the parent was nowhere to be found. There was no grandparent. So we essentially had to take care of this kid. And all my staff was calling me up. What do we do? What do we do? And I think the big thing is we love on them. Mm-hmm. We love on them, and we give them that safe refuge, if you will, to be able to be in a facility and have a time to be around healthy activity and good people that are going to guide them and work with them. And you're seeing it more and more. You're seeing that a lot of these young children are having to grow up real quick. And what we have to try to do, as we've noted, kind of have multiple facets of our education. All of our staff this past year, mental health first aid, teen mental health first aid. That was one of the requirements because we did apply for a teen mental health grant. Mm-hmm. And there's money there in mental health. Thankfully, the government is now continuing to look at mental health as a pandemic that we need to focus on. So one of the greatest things that we can do is keep educating our staff on how to be able to give those resources should a situation arise where a young person comes in with a lot of issues. We might not be able to necessarily treat them, but we can at least guide them to where they can go and help kind of move forward with that. And our partnership with the hospital allows us the greatest resource of all to be able to say, if there is trauma, heaven forbid something major occur, we can get to those resources pretty quickly. So, it is a blessing to be able to be partnered with an organization in a hospital that can really help us out in a lot of ways that we wouldn't be able to.
John, it kind of reminds me of something you mentioned earlier too, is this idea that there's a resource there, there's a window there, that if you recognize something that you may offset the potential a week later or two weeks later or somewhere down the road of having to call on emergency response to deal with the situation. We've seen all kinds of upticks in, as John's pointing out, in adolescent behavior, including suicide, which is horrible to think about. But if you guys tag that early on, it helps prevent what the weight and response and so forth when you engage these other critical care, as they're referred to, organizations?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think none of us want to see anything like that happen in our communities, much less in a larger scale. But we have a responsibility when we're taking time with these kids, taking time with these parents. It's not just about numbers. It's not about, participation levels. It's not about offering a large amount of activities. I mean, it's about really taking time to be a positive force in these people's lives. And, we're a service. And, unfortunately, public service is not very lucrative as far as, financially. But when you're looking at what it really pays forward on a person's life, I mean, I think one of our services is probably, one of the most sought after in people's lives. And that's just because, we're so preventative. And I just had a grandmother that works for me now that her kid is 25 years old, and she raised him, and he remembers, and she thought it was going to be just a wonderful thing to be able to tell them that she saw me and met me, and she appreciated things that we did in their life. And, they remember that. And that was a grandparent raising a grandchild, and they still remember that. And the grandparent's still working here in our county.
Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back in the last part of the show. There's several topic areas I want to just kind of do what I call hot button items and give you guys time to kind of respond to that. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. We're coming up on the last part of the show. We're talking about a critical, important issue here, stability of our society on a large scale. We'll be back in a moment.
Providing fewer commutes, more backyard offices, and crystal clear meetings. Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
Hey guys, Sydney and Jesse here from At the Table. Are you enjoying the show? We want to hear from you. We have a quick survey where you can tell us things you've learned, recipes you've tried, and how the show has impacted you. You'll be entered into a grand prize drawing. Check out our link or scan the QR code for more info. Thank you for tuning in and cooking with us at the table.
We find in life that some things just go together. Like peanut butter and jelly, cheese and crackers, steak and potatoes, and of course, milk and cookies. But the bottle and the throttle are never a good combination. Be smart, be safe, be responsible. Don't drink and drive.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. The name of the show is We Should Know. I'm J.W. Simmons, your host. Please continue to send us your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. If you want to drop a card or a message to us, you can do that also by using Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. You can put We Should Know on there or WSK. It'll come to us. More than happy to read those cards, your suggestions and thoughts about shows we need to be doing, things we need to look into deeper. I love to hear from you. Also, please continue to stop me in the grocery store or wherever. I have some great conversations with many of you about things that we've had on and shows that you'd like to see. So continue to call us and stay in touch. We're talking today about recreation. We've got with us folks that do this on a regular basis: Garrett, Bryant, City of Clinton, Dana Hall, Sampson County, and John Adams, YMCA. I want to try to get some key issues in here. When we think about recreation, sometimes we don't think about some of these things. And I want to put one out there immediately, which I think we've kind of touched on a little bit, but that's something called promoting positive socialization. Is critically important. When you hear that, I just get your thoughts, and I'll start with Garrett. When you hear that, how does recreation relate to that comment of promoting positive socialization?
For me personally, just hearing it, just, making kids feel welcome, I guess in the sense of accomplishment of, what they're doing. So again, like I alluded to, I get a chance to walk around, our park during ball games and things like that. So I make sure I try to go to different ages, T-ball, coach pitch, things of that nature. And, kids that I see, kids I don't see, I'm always trying to give them encouragement, whether they're getting on the field, off the field, but just let them know that they have support, not only from just their immediate family, but, from our staff side. Our staff are very welcoming to, making sure that the kids are just feeling, comfortable and I guess in a safe space. So I think that's big on our end, just making them feel, welcome in that sense.
Dana, positive socialization. I find that promoting positive socialization, that's so important now because we're in such a conflict society.
Well, I think, our responsibility and people don't really see it. You see it more in the schools, but the schools is a really structured environment. Kids don't really have as much opportunity to really tell us about themselves or to get in disagreements, learn how to handle things, whenever they come to our programs, our athletic events, our special events, they're a little bit more free. So sometimes, we see a little bit more confrontation or conflict, and you're able to kind of step in and talk to them a little bit more one-on-one. And they can, have their feelings. Everybody has emotions and feelings, but it's learning how to deal with those things, like I mentioned before. And we really have a great opportunity with the amount of volunteers that we have, the amount of staff that we have, the amount of positive role models that come to those games. Like I mentioned to you before, the amount of people that just attend those games, you're not only teaching those kids how to act and what's acceptable, you're teaching those adults how to act, what's acceptable.
A great point. I just got to stop for a minute and mention that because we've all seen in the news media where parents end up in physical confrontation at ball games, so you got to say, wait a minute, who's doing role modeling here? That's a great point. John, let me hit you with that same thing. That's this whole idea of promoting positive socialization.
Sure. I've got a 79-year-old mom, unfortunately, who is at home by herself all day. And loneliness, we talked a little last time I was on this show. You got me not crying this time, buddy. Not going to cry.
It'll bring it.
I know. It sure will, because I think people are, they've isolated themselves more and more. Either they're afraid to come out or they just unfortunately have not surrounded themselves or don't have that cohort to be able to find. So the Y and Parks and Rec are about people and uplifting one another, showing them the right ways to find great interaction and find ways to get to those places where other folks are. One thing I love about the Y is just we have a couple seated areas, and we have some folks that come in and they don't work out at all. They just come because they like to be in the company of others. And I think having just areas in our community where we can bring people together, whether in a small group or a large group, and having role models within coaches as well as directors there, kind of guiding and helping, giving some, real good kind of clarity to the importance of being together and doing it in the right way. Those are all just great things that I'm seeing more and more come through. And then as we coordinate our events, making sure that the events that we're doing, we kick off those events. We talked about kicking them off with a moment of pause and silence to commemorate what we're doing there. I know several organizations do have prayer prior to their activity, just even prior to meals, just taking a moment and thanking those that helped get it there. So, socialization has so many different ways that it can impact individuals, and it all starts with how that your individual feels. And if they're positive when they show up to the facility because they've had a positive interaction at their house, and they've had individuals there that have uplifted them, that will then kind of trickle itself all the way through to the actual event itself. So, it starts with the home, and then it builds out from there.
Dana, let's see, this next topic is something that John's already just touched on just in his comment. And that's this idea of developing positive life skills, the individual life skills is important. And when you look at that, teamwork, working together, disagreeing is okay, but there's limitations, understanding, all those kinds of things with life skills. Do you see that as something that you see unfolding oftentimes with kids?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think in the summer is the time where we really have an opportunity to look at it on a more one-to-one ratio. Mm-hmm. So, we have an opportunity to work with different organizations during the summer. Like we work with the Aspire program that has at-risk teens that come in and work with us, and they help us during our summer camps. So they're able to be paired with a full-time staff. They help us because they're an added hand when we're working with those kids at our summer camps, but they also have a positive role model in their life that's with them through the duration of that program. And it usually lasts the entire summer. And like I said, it's at no cost to the county, but it's something that we can have a full-time staff person who's an adult, who's a positive role model, and is showing them, teaching them life skills, how to do things, teaching them how to deal with disagreements with children, but they're also modeling how they should deal with it for those teenagers as well.
Garrett, do you see it in the sense of using that as the term here, developing life skills, that folks need to just really understand how to communicate with each other? Do you find that sometimes is a conflict-oriented thing where you have to sit and say, listen, that's not the way we play here. That's not what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always that, that battle. Once you get in your teenage age, and some even, adults, just more so just reiterating, hey, what are we here for? And trying to always to redirect positive encouragement and positive behavior. I mean, unfortunately, we do have those situations to where, we have to remind individuals, with the grand or the more important issue here. So we do have those issues from time to time. But we do definitely feel like it's important to make sure that the message is clear, and cut across the board with our participants.
When you guys are working with folks, do you sometimes see individuals, and this reflects kind of on the next topic I wanted to touch on, which is reducing risk-taking behaviors. And when I'm talking about risk-taking behaviors, I'm talking about risk of doing something that is not part of the norm of society. Risk of just the simple aspect of Mr. Garrett or Miss Dana or Mr. John. Does kids fail to sometimes have the positive way to communicate with people and to get along, and more importantly, with technology as it is now, they're looking at this and you're kind of disturbing that. Well, then we got a problem. They don't know how to do that. I've had folks to tell, this is so true. I had somebody tell me that I said, well, how did you meet so-and-so? Well, we chatted online. And so then when they got to see each other, they didn't know how to talk to them.
Yeah. I think, like I mentioned earlier, kids are growing up too fast. I think we're in a desensitized era. And I look at the music they listen to, the games that they're playing, the movies that we see. It's incredible that, I see when I sit next to my son and he's watching a show and I can't even watch, and he's just not even reacting to it. I hate to say it, but I think they've become conditioned to the turmoil and what a lot of marketing and just a lot of your agencies that are trying to engage individuals, even the social media content has really gotten so mature and so violent.
Oh yeah.
That I think they don't know sometimes that the risk that they are being predisposed to, it causes them to now have very little reaction to doing things that, when we were growing up, not to age us here, y'all, but that it just, we would be appalled at that type of behavior. And I think it also really respect. And, one of the core values that my son works on right now as he's trying to get his Eagle Scout is reverence.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of that, especially, younger people addressing some of the older individuals. We're in a time where you have 6 different generations in the workforce right now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you have a 16-year-old who is now the boss of a 65-year-old. And ageism is one of those forms of racism that has not, people don't think a lot about. And
but it exists.
It exists. And I think so, from the desensitization and just trying to let folks know and let our kids know, and that's not okay, and stop it before it gets out of control. And if we see it on the sidelines or on the field or in the gym, have the courage to stop it and say something about it, because if not, what happens is it just boils out of control. And if nobody says anything to the child, they think it's okay.
I want to thank you all for being with us, each one of you for being with us today. It's been a critical conversation. And I think when I look at it, improving mental health and encouraging physical activity is the 2 key functions you guys are involved in. Without you, we have an issue. We must have and continue to have your support. And I will go ahead and close the show with this statement: to have a sane, responsive society. Thank you again for all you do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again next week on We Should Know. And may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.